Saudara Saudari sekalian, comrades and friends, I think there's nothing wrong with Irene's mental faculties because she could speak without any notes at all from start to finish. And I agree with Chin Chin earlier on about what questions do you think you want to ask me, you know? Because when I was detained in between from 87 to 89, I knew that this was a question everybody would ask me when I was released. So I started writing a book, which was published on the same year that we were released, in 1989. And also yesterday in my keynote address, I spoke at length, and as people say, I spoke too long. So I don't want to say any more about all that kind of stuff that I've been writing in the press. But what emerged yesterday from the family sharing was the question of how did we cope? And how should the young people proceed from today, from here, from our experience, you know? Because we don't want to be here all the time. We want, you know, other people to go in from us. Because I was saying yesterday, when I was detained, there was two old people from Dong Jiao Zhong, from this organization. One was Mr. Lim, the chairman of Dong Zhong, Mr. Sim, chairman of Jiao Zhong. And they were saying, oh, these pitiful elderly men getting arrested, detained at this age. And I've reached this age of Mr. Lim Fong Sing at that time now. So please, take in some young ones next time. So my speech, what I want to share today is what we can, you know, give to the young people so that they're prepared the next time. Because you're very fortunate from the experience sharing by all these people who were detained under Operation Lalang. Some of the lessons can be learned from there. So how did I cope? All of us have different, you can see from the speakers, and yesterday and today, everybody has got their own strategies, you know, to survive. Because that's all we tried to do, as Nazir said. We tried to survive, you know. We're not all Supermen. And I tried to maintain my body, mind, and my soul, BMS, you know. I think I'm probably working for BMS, the vegetarian restaurant. But it is important, not just to be prepared for the detention, prepare now, you know. Make sure that your body and your mind and your soul are always in ship shape. When the time comes, you know, when the special branch knocks on your door, you're prepared for it, okay? Because another way in which I cope in life is that when anything like that happens, I change gear. I'm talking about the age of the manual car. Today you are going to the age of the electric car, but I live in the age of the manual car, and most of the time I'm traveling at 4th gear. And when the special branch knocks on my door at 2:30 in the morning, straight away my mind goes into 2nd gear. Not 3rd gear, not 1st gear, but sort of 2nd gear. And you just have to, besides being prepared in your mind, body, and your soul, be prepared when anything like that happens, go into 2nd gear and prepare for the worst. Prepare for the worst, you know, because activists, we know what has happened before. The whole history of the ISA, of the repression in this country, you have to prepare for the worst. And then you have to prepare for, you know, learn some skills of disciplining your mind. I mean, I do Tai Chi. I've been doing Tai Chi before my detention. You can do whatever you like, you know, Silat, meditation, Qigong. Nasir has got his acupuncture needles. And so forth. I think that is important as well. Apart from anything else, in the under solitary confinement, in that very small space, you have to think of how you're going to keep your body in shape. The easiest thing when you're under solitary confinement is to, you know, like say, no books, you can't read anything, you can't write anything, go to sleep. I think that's lethal. You try and sleep in the daytime, you stay awake at night. And when you're awake at night, you'll be thinking of all kinds of things under the sun. And it is, to me, insomnia and not being able to sleep at night is one of the worst tortures, you know, I can think of. So be prepared for that kind of discipline of your mind. Learn some art of some kind now, So this is not so much about Operation Lalang. And another strategy of mine is to have, if you come to the 60s, what was happening in China at that time, I thought it was very good. And you'd be surprised to know, I was reading a Wall Street Journal the other day, and some of the techniques and the slogans that was during the Cultural Revolution is now being used in Harvard Business School and all that. But one very important slogan I learned during that time, which I think is very good, is called paper tiger. Think of your opponent as a paper tiger. The Vietnamese thought of the Americans, the strongest military in the world, as paper tigers. Can you imagine that? How small, how weak by comparison to America, the United States, and they beat the hell out of the Americans, and they beat them, and they have a peace in 1975. That's the paper tiger strategy. So whatever happens to you under detention, think of your opponent as a paper tiger. During the time when Mahathir was so strong, the great Maha Firaun, I always thought of him as a paper tiger. Yes, he had a big flood of advisors and speech writers and all that from Harvard and Cambridge, wherever they are. But after retired, he's talking rubbish most of the time. I put on my Facebook today, Operation Lalang, sudah lupa. Something like that. And he says rubbish things, he writes rubbish. And that is what I mean by paper tiger. Most of these people are paper tigers. Donald Trump is a paper tiger. And that's how you should go through life. These people are paper tigers. And so when you're detained, whatever, think of your opponent as a paper tiger. And that's how you get through life. That's how you win the Vietnam War. Maintaining your body, mind, and soul. I think Nasser has gone through some of that during detention, Maintaining your dignity. Your dignity now, when you're detained under the ISA and you're at the mercy of the special branch, your dignity is so much more at stake. That's why when Anwar Ibrahim recently, when they had accepted Mahathir to be the chairman of the Pakatan Harapan, I wrote an article and said, please preserve your dignity, Anwar. And Anwar's daughter said, yes, Mahathir has to apologize for what he called my father. It's on video, If Mahathir doesn't apologize to Anwar, what the hell is Anwar's dignity? You have seen what Mahathir said about Anwar on video. I don't have to repeat it. It was all over the news. It was all over the video. You can Google it. And if I was Anwar's child, I would say that Mahathir has to apologize to my father, Anwar Ibrahim, if he wants to be part of Pakatan Harapan, he wants to be the chairman of Pakatan Harapan. That is what I mean by dignity. When you're detained under the ISA, you're at even bigger mercy, as Nasser has said, under the ISA. So you have to maintain your dignity. After you go to Kamunting, during the 60 days of solitary confinement, you just have to, go on second gear. You can't try to be clever anyway. They'll beat the shit out of you, But when you go to Kamunting, there are things that you can uphold your dignity. And one of them is what? When you have to leave the Kamunting camp to go to the hospital, for example, you must refuse to wear handcuffs because you're a political detainee. And this is a right, not of Operation Lalang detainees, but it was a right that was fought for through the years of all the ISA detainees from the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s and all. The people on the left mainly, who fought for that right. And when we were under Operation Lalang, we learned about that right. And we always refuse to wear handcuffs. They'll threaten you and do whatever they like, but you have to maintain your dignity and say, I will not be handcuffed when I go to the hospital because I'm a political detainee. Habeas corpus, I think Anne and the other families were sharing. We as detainees as well, during the 60 days when you're at the mercy of the special branch, you'll be also pressured not to feel their habeas corpus. So now, you young people, you have the advantage of hindsight of what everybody said yesterday, the family said, and now we say, go ahead, ask your family to file the habeas corpus, your only recourse to freedom. Of course, as you hear yesterday, you find that Siva had said that none of the habeas corpus writs that were fielded succeeded from outside. But there was one that succeeded. Kapal Singh, he was my roommate, and most of the time he was on his back because through the 60 days his back had been, badly damaged. And I helped him type his affidavit and his case in court. And he won. He won his affidavit before Justice Pei, And you know how he won? Through a very absurd, you have to say it's absurd because it's almost like fiction. You know how he won? Siva yesterday was telling you how impossible it is to win a habeas corpus. It's true. But you know how he won? We all have allegations of fact. On this particular day, on this particular forum, whatever, you were saying this, you were, rebel-rousing the crowd, etc. But in his case, he was before the same judge that on that particular day that is mentioned in the allegation of fact, Kapal Singh was arguing a case before the same judge. Can you see anything more ridiculous than that? So to win your freedom under the ISA, that is the only chance you have of winning your freedom for some absurd twist of fate of that kind. So habeas corpus again, how to maintain your dignity. Solidarity. When you're on hunger strike, Nasir talked about the solidarity of people, and that is important. When you're in there, you think that solidarity is an easy thing? No. The special branch plays with the different detainees. And people today that you think are very strong, wow, in Parliament talking a hell of a lot, whatever, they're very strong. During Operation Lalang, at Kamunting, they were not like that. Some were weak, some were strong, some were too clever, etc. But that is the truth that happened in Kamunting. So maintain your dignity, because if you lose your dignity, others like me and Nasir, we're there to see for it. We are the witnesses to their behavior. And then, like Nasir said, the Ikra, a primary school kid goes to the assembly once a week, don't they? Once a week. We grown-up people, when you're in Kamunting, they want you to do it 3 times. Not only to sing the national anthem, but to pledge the Ikra to the government, to the Rukun Negara, blah, 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 Can you beat that? So we thought of all kinds of ways, because, we're not detained in a tempat tahanan, we're detained in the tempat pemulihan. So when we first brought to them, we said, tempat pemulihan, who are they trying to pule, That is ridiculous. So this is what we're talking about. Preparing for the worst scenario. Again, it depends on who your model is. People like us, and we all have different models, haven't we? My models, I went through university in the 70s and all that. My model was people like Victor Jara of Chile, who had his hand smashed by the fascists under Pinochet, and he was killed for playing the guitar and singing, And then who else did we have? Anybody saw my Facebook posting tonight? But if you've seen it, don't put your hands up. Anybody knows today is the anniversary of whose arrest and detention? Chia Tai Po of Singapore, arrested on the 29th October 1966. One of the longest serving political prisoners in the world, longer than Mandela. Chia Tai Po. So when we were students, we were always fighting for his release, etc. So he's my model as well. What you should, the worst scenario you should hope for, you could aim for. Mandela, of course, everybody knows Mandela. He was detained for something like 29 years, wasn't he? And one of my best model for surviving, you say, how do you survive a detention? One of my best model, of anybody's model, is Pramodia Anantatua. Okay? deprived like we were of writing material, of reading material, and he wrote his novel. I think it was the trilogy. 3 novels on Bumi Manusia. Yeah? He wrote all that in his head. Is that an impossible model? So if he can do that, you have to spend your time in the 60 days trying to think of things, trying to write poetry, trying to write stories, make plans on what you can think about and write about, theorize about, problems of the world. Try and write it in your head. So these are the things that you can do today. You don't have to wait till you're arrested and detained. Okay, so the third thing is being steadfast in your political ideals. That's the only way. See how Chairman Nasir is so steadfast in his political ideas. Who can break him? I couldn't break him, even if I tried. So you got to be sure what you're fighting for. Okay, today it's very good that we are seeing so many young people on demonstration and rallies, in birthday rallies, etc. But you have to know what you're fighting for. Free and fair elections is fine. Okay, is that all? To many of these people, these big political leaders today in Pakatan Harapan, they want Najib to fall. Is that all? Najib falls and then what? Mahathir comes in. Great. 20 more years, you know. So what are we fighting for? Is fighting for self, fighting for career, go to parliament to be a member of parliament? And is that all you aim for, you know? What reforms? You should ask these politicians, ask yourself, what reforms do you want to see? How do you want to reform Malaysian society? The budget has just just gone through, you know. Wealth redistribution in the country, is the budget doing that enough? Is Pakatan Harapan putting forward reforms that will redistribute wealth? The 50 richest Malaysians in this country, according to Forbes, that never tells a lie about wealth, they own something like 50 billion. The GST is only 40 billion, isn't it? These 50 top people, including 2 sons of Mahathir, so I don't know, if Mahathir is going to, advantage of Mahathir to Pakatan Harapan is money, or is it, or can he draw the people? I remember the other day I said, I don't believe Mahathir, I believe that PAS can draw more people than Mahathir, because Mahathir pulled in 12 people to Bersih, and he didn't pull in that many people to the PJ rally either. And let's watch. I think some of the Pakatan Harapan says, Kwa is delusional. We'll see who is delusional, and ask, any of them are prepared to bet with me, okay? So whose interest? And unless we are fighting for, you know, the greater good of this country, to put a better future for the poor, the working class, and not just, you know, today the developers have bought over Barisan National as well as bought over Pakatan Harapan. You can tell that from the supplement in your newspaper every day, right? Eco World, this, blah, blah, blah. You knocked down, they destroyed the forest behind my house, permanent forest, and then built Eco World for the rich. And then they don't know how, there's no housing. If this housing is beyond the reach of people. And so this is the kind of world that we are prepared for. So you have to prepare for something better than that. And if you prepare for something better than that, ask questions. Is it these people or is it the class that is more important? And then maybe your political ideals could be as staunch, as solid as Chairman Nasir. And then you'll be prepared when the time comes. So Chin Chin ended up with a quote, and I want to sing you a song. because during Operation Lalang, or after that, you know, when we just came out, we had a theme song, Operation Lalang theme song. Isn't it good to know that there was a theme song? It's not an original song. It was a song that was written by somebody called Jack Warshaw and made popular by this Irish singer called Christy Moore. Okay. They call it the law, we call it inhuman, degrading detention. It's a law that they made to keep you and me where they think we belong. They hide behind blind allegations and spies a bag full of lies, and tell us who suffer the pain of internment that we're in the wrong. No time for love if they come in the morning. No time to show fear of our tears in the morning. No time for goodbyes, no time to ask why. And the wail of the chill runs the cry of the morning. They took away writers and critics, lawyers and socially conscious, MPs and trade union leaders, all part of the stake, detained without trial, thrown behind bars and barbed wire. And as for the crime, their only beliefs were their only mistake. No time for love if they come in the morning. No time to show fear of our tears in the morning. No time for goodbyes. No time to ask why. And the wail of the children is the cry of the morning. They suffered in silence, in solitary confinement for 61 days. That was the technical point that day. It's supposed to be 60 days. Abused and tormented by goons for being so involved. The day after Christmas, they are served with an order for 62 more years. But the months of detention have failed to break their resolve. No time for love if they come in the morning. No time to show fear of our tears in the morning. No time for goodbyes. No time to ask why. And the wail of the chill runs the cry of the morning. Thank you.